there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from SZA SOS Deluxe LANA. So I normally don't cover deluxe albums, especially when they're released weeks or months or years after the original. I got a limited amount of time to get through albums. My general rule with deluxe projects is that they're the leftover songs that aren't good enough to make the main album. Maybe if you're lucky, you get a gem or two, or the songs that the label thought were too quirky to make the main track list. But look, that's the general exception, not the rule. And with SZA, okay look, SOS was over 20 songs and it was already all over the place. Even if I knew she had recorded so many more songs in the meantime, even before SOS came out, I did not have much interest or bandwidth around the deluxe. But then strange things kept cropping up around this project. The incessant delays, I expected those, it's SZA and TDE, but then there were leaks that apparently caused them to go back to the studio and make more music. And then the deluxe album was given a name of its own in Lana, and I started to get the impression that this would be less a deluxe release and more an entire separate album that just so happens to be bucketed into the same overall era as SOS, but given its own name. Kind of think Tyler the Creator and the estate sale. Now I had very mixed opinions on this. Kind of struck me as hedging bets, which has felt like a component of SZA's commercial strategy as an artist for way too long by TDE and RCA, given the acclaim and success that she has seen, especially when Saturn was a really good song, just not one of my favorites from her. But then the delays kept happening, and we're now over 2 years since SOS, and then Kendrick Lamar puts out GNX with multiple SZA features, and then announces a joint tour with her. From there, I knew Lana was gonna get released, if only to have new music to justify the tour. It was just a question of whether or not it was December 2024 or early 2025, and sure enough, to make my year-end and holiday schedule an utter headache, the album is dropped mid-afternoon last Friday, and it's a full 15 songs because if your main album is bloated, why not make your deluxe just like it? And normally I wouldn't bring any of this up, except for the sinking feeling that it's all a decent bit more interesting than the actual music we got, where my initial response was, SZA's still not living up to all her hype and potential. But truth be told, I've never been as hyped about SZA as the rest of my music critic peers, and I think that predates Control. She's a remarkably expressive singer and personality, but the production and writing has always had these odd, shaggy edges that the organic palette can only excuse for so long, and it feels all the more true here. And unlike SOS's sprawling genre experimentation, Lana feels like the natural deluxe expansion of the wheedling guitars, the hollowed-out chillwave synths, and the lumbering low end that SZA has called her own sound for a while now. More a textural exploration of familiar territory rather than innovating or focusing on more distinctive hooks or grooves, really beyond catering to anyone outside her diehard fanbase. And yet what's surprising is that for as many years as it's taken for this to get released, there are so many production choices that just feel off, especially around the vocals. Either pickups that feel smothered in reverb, or compressed in a really wonky, flattened way that doesn't help SZA's expressiveness, like on Scorsese Baby Daddy, or My Turn, or Drive, or especially around the belting on the hook of Crybaby. Side note, I don't think I've ever liked a song with that title, but that doesn't count the weird percussion choices that feel so brittle, or how the swampy, washed out, faux psychedelic guitar palette on cuts like Love Me For Me reminds me a lot of modern indie pop that feel like natural territory for SZA, but also sounds like an oddly cheap sonic backdrop. Perhaps it's not fair to compare how lush Good Days was to all this, but that is a production high watermark that SZA has not approached in years, and it makes the delays in order to get the mixes right kind of leaving me a little skeptical. Hell, I get why BMF and Kitchen were included on this album. They at least have something approximating a groove and a punchier crossover hook, the latter with that terrific Isley Brothers sample. Hell, the Get Behind Me interlude has a really cool rattling drum breakdown around that glossy chloral backdrop. It kind of had me wishing this album tried more odd swerves like SOS did. It's a deluxe. You can do that. And what's so frustrating is that I don't think the writing's bad by any means. SZA made it clear that much of Lana was written when she was in a much better headspace, and you can definitely hear it. When there are breakup songs, they're more efficient, they're less melodramatic or over the top. There are more love songs, or at least searching for someone who can match SZA's passion and energy. It's probably her most exuberant and confident songs. And hell, there's a fair few about coming into owning her spot near the top of R&B, becoming confident with her own confidence. Now, I don't always think it works. 30 for 30 is definitely one of the weakest Kendrick and SZA collabs, mostly for every chirpy invocation of chat, which reminds me that SZA's been hanging out with Kai Cenat, and that Drake's 30 for 30 freestyle is actually aged better than you might have think. But I also like SZA coming to own more of her confidence and passion while balancing out her vulnerability. Even if the sequencing has the project end with Saturn and its desire for escapism, that's a shockingly downbeat note compared to how strong of a closer Another Life is. Although Saturn was just probably tacked on because it was the hit, and it probably has some of the best production on the whole album. But as a whole, the more I think about Lana, the more frustrated I wind up. It's very clearly a deluxe add-on, because on its own it wouldn't have a chance of matching the best material from Control or SOS, and it probably should have been released last year if it wasn't for all the goddamn leaks. But SZA's writing and delivery at least give it a floor of quality, and thus it's a real damn shame the production can't follow through on the majority of it, or better flatter her strengths. Honestly, if she wasn't so big, I don't see RCA really pushing this. It's gonna have a lot of chart impact even amidst the holidays, but if this was coming from anyone else, the flaws in the release and the album wouldn't be so easily overlooked. So I think it's a fine enough listen for the diehards. Overall, I am gonna call it decent, but before the end of 2024, I just wouldn't call it essential. That's all. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yes, I know this is going to get some backlash, but again, I have a pretty high standard for SZA that she has set for herself, and thus there's elements of this project that I wanted to like more. It certainly sets a vibe, and the writing is good, but the production missteps at this point, especially when she said that she wanted to get the mixes right, and that's why the delays kept cropping up, and then the mixes just didn't flatter her, just felt really awkward, and that was really disappointing. But beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And hey, if you all want to get involved in helping support the channel, or guess yell at me on my Discord more directly, or hey, maybe even see some year-end list early, I'm thinking about maybe putting out some of them either through Patreon or YouTube memberships early. We will have to see how that turns out. Hey, links over there. Once again, do not feel obligated. Tough times, I understand, but the option is available. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.